The box office results are in, and it was a huge weekend for Avengers Age of Ultron. Despite tens of millions of Americans staying home or in sports bars to watch the Mayweather vs. Pacquiao fight,
Death of boxing.
Avengers still managed to make more money on its opening weekend than any other film in history, not also named Avengers. The movie took in $187.6 million to take first place at the box office, short of the $207 million the first film made. In second place was The Age of Adaline, making $6.2 million for a 2-week total of $23.4 million. In third place is Furious 7, taking in $6.1 million for a 5-week international total of $1.42 billion. In fourth place is Paul Blart 2 with $5.5 million. And rounding out the top 5 is the animated film Home, making $3.3 million to stay in the top 5 for the 6th consecutive week. John, what stands out to you about the box office results?
A couple things stand out. Yeah, I mean, Avengers Age of Ultron, it is so funny seeing some people try to put a negative spin on the box office results of Avengers Age of Ultron. No, that just goes to show you, it made $187.6 million, the most ever by any film not named Avengers. I mean, I keep that. Plus, it was there were tens of millions of people. Look, I didn't honestly think that the Pacquiao Mayweather fight was going to affect it all that much. Turns out it really did. When you saw the final numbers, like ESPN was estimating that probably about 40 million people watched that fight. Not 40 million people, bought the pay-per-view, but they considered people in their homes and having all their guests over, and then people going to sports bars. Well, they're estimating like 40 million people. Those are huge numbers. Now, not all those people were going to go see Avengers Age of Ultron, but even if 5 million of those people would have seen Avengers Age of Ultron that night, that's another $50 million at the box office gone. So I think it's incredible numbers. But what was really staggering, at $187.6 million, that now means the top 3 all-time opening weekend box office results are all Marvel films. Avengers is number 1, Avengers Age of Ultron is number 2, and Iron Man 3 is in third place. So Marvel's kind of happy. Age of Adaline. You told me a few weeks ago Age of Adaline would have hit $23 million. I wouldn't have believed it, really. So it's doing quite well. And of course, Home, 6 consecutive weeks. Staying power is a rare thing these days. So full marks to it for staying in there. Mark, what stands out to you about the box office results?
Well, far from the Madden crowd took a lot more punishment than either Pacquiao or Mayweather did this weekend. By the way, those two gentlemen each made more than the Avengers Age of Ultron this weekend. So hats off to them. You're right. You can't complain about $187 million opening weekend, but $20 million is also a lot of money. And that's the discrepancy between the first Avengers film and the second one. I didn't think Mayweather Pacquiao would have that much to do with the box office, and it appears that it did, because I think that Avengers Age of Ultron had a lot of replay value. I saw it multiple times, and I wanted, even more so than the first Avengers, which I wanted to see multiple times because it was so much fun. This movie has so much in it. There's so much going on in Age of Ultron. There's so many, if you want to look at Easter eggs or just plot lines or battle scenes, that you want to see multiple times. And I think that fans, even if they didn't love it universally like they did the first one, everybody said this was a good movie. We want to go see this again. So the fact that it made $187, it's a great testament to it. I was a little surprised it didn't cross 200 million.
The funny thing is, I said from the beginning, I thought I was going to have a very hard time hitting 200. But then we saw the numbers that Furious 7 did, and I said, okay, well, I'm bought in. But like you, I underestimated the effect and how many people would watch that Pacquiao.
It was a great sports day in general, too. I mean, you had the Kentucky Derby, you had Game 7, you had hockey players, you had a lot of things going on.
Maud, what stands out to you about the box office results?
Well, there is something for everyone, the movies this weekend. Doesn't matter what kind of fan you are. If you don't like comic book movies at all, there's other ones. Like you've got your Fast and Furious 7. If you want a ladies' night out, or if you want to have a compelling love story, compelling, that was generous. Age of Adeline's there. If you've got kids, there's Home. So there's absolutely something for everyone here. But the stats are in about how the fight affected the sales of the box office. And they said that it probably affected 9% of all sales.
That's steep.
Exactly. So you add another 9% of sales onto that, and it would have blitzed everything out of the park and hit the figures that I think Marvel feels that it deserved. For example, from the Friday night to the Saturday night sales, it said it dropped off 40% in LA and San Fran regions, which is obviously those that went to the fight or had,
and
more
Game
of an
7 of Los Angeles in a Game 7 situation as well.
That's it. And that's a 40% drop off from Friday to a Saturday night. That's huge as well. So I think it's bad timing in this case, but does it take away from the success? No. Is it going to hit probably 1.5 billion? Yeah.
But here's an interesting thing, though, because of that, we have these other factors in here. I think we're going to see Avengers Age of Ultron in its first week, forget the first weekend, the first week and even the second weekend, do better numbers than maybe Marvel was anticipating. Because say like those 5 million people or 6 million people, right? Okay, they're now going to go watch Avengers Age of Ultron this week instead of having seen opening weekend. So where I think it took a little bit of a hit on its opening weekend, 187, if you can call 187 million opening weekend a hit. Well, it took a little bit of a hit that opening weekend. I think you're going to see that's going to play out. I think you're going to see second weekend numbers. I'm going to go on a limb. I think the second weekend numbers of Avengers Age of Ultron will be bigger than the second weekend numbers of the first Avengers movie.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure what the first Avengers film did in its second weekend, but I think this one's going to do over 100 million in its second weekend. I think that there's just not a lot of competition in the next 2 weeks. Even with Mad Max coming out in a couple weeks, that Venn diagram of people who really want to see both those movies, it doesn't cross over as much as you'd think. So I think we're going to go all the way until Tomorrowland before you see another movie take the top spot of the box office.